Hello, welcome back to Too Many Books. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk to you about Gwendy's Button Box, a novella co-written by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar. Of course, with as many book comparison videos as I can, I'm going to showcase various editions of this while I'm talking about it, including the first trade edition from Cemetery Dance, the original, the signed numbered edition from Lonely Roads Books, which was an offshoot of Cemetery Dance, and the gift edition from SST Publications over in the UK. I will go into more details about these editions once I'm done talking about the novella itself, but as I'm flipping through it, you're going to be seeing artwork from Keith Minnion, who did the interior artwork in Cemetery Dance and Lonely Roads edition, and Vincent Sammy, who did the artwork in the SST edition. And of course, Ben Baldwin did the cover artwork. So anyways, Gwendy's Button Box is a novella-length return to Castle Rock, the fabled Stephen King town up in Maine. I know, Needful Things back in the early 90s was touted as being the last Castle Rock story, but then Stephen King did return to Castle Rock amidst several short stories between then and now. But Gwendy's Button Box was the first work that was longer than a short story that brings us back to Castle Rock. Although I'm sad to say it doesn't really need to happen in Castle Rock. It doesn't really add anything to it. But anyways, it follows a young Gwendy Peterson as she encounters a mysterious man in a bowler hat, good old Richard Ferris, who provides her with the titular button box. And he tells her that, the buttons on the top have very, very powerful abilities, and hitting those buttons can cause very bad things to happen. There are two levers on the button box as well. One dispenses a very intricate piece of chocolate, which is the best chocolate she ever has. When you eat one, it makes you not want to have another one. And a second lever that occasionally dispenses very, very rare coins. If that sounds like a concept you may have heard before, you might have heard of Button Button by Richard Matheson. It was a short story that got adapted into a Twilight Zone episode, that got adapted into a feature-length film, all with the idea of a couple being given a box with a button on it by a mysterious man and told that, if you press the button, you'll get $1 million, but somebody you don't know will die. And it kind of asks the question of, will the person press the button? Will they fall to the temptation? Kind of a little monkey's paw situation. A little, I don't want to say Sophie's Choice. Sophie's Choice was significantly harder, but you know what I'm going for there. And there's Keith Minnion's illustration of the 1891 coin that is dispensed by the button box. So, the novella, is really a coming-of-age novella. It's not really horror by any means. It very much deals with Gwendy's adolescence. At the start of the novella, she is an overweight kid who is trying to get in shape for the new school year, and she soon finds herself at the mercy of these intricate chocolates, getting into better shape and finding just all-around improvements of her life. I mean, yeah, the buttons are tempting to her, and you are going to have a little bit of suspense in whether or not she is going to press the buttons and what will happen if she does press the buttons. But, I mean, ultimately, the novella, first and foremost, is about Gwendy Peterson. I mean, the button box is there. It's always ever looming in the background, but it's not necessarily central to the plot in a way. I mean, it does come around, especially in the final act, to have some very dire consequences throughout the novella. But it's almost a coming-of-age take on Button Button. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed this novella. I mean, is it a perfect novella? No. I mean, it has almost whiplash in a way with how fast the timeline how fast these chapters go by. You go from one chapter and suddenly she's an entire grade ahead. You go through another chapter and summer's already happened. I mean, you are going at breakneck speed through her adolescence and teenage years. I mean, I'm not going to spoil the ending by any means, but they're literally the entire 4 years that she is away at college happens between two chapters, happens between the penultimate chapter and the epilogue. You know, you blink and suddenly, bam, she's done with college. So yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating concept. It's done relatively well by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar. I know the original idea started as a short story by King that he never quite finished. Chizmar apparently took the reins on it and was able to expand it to novella length. I will say you can't really tell who's writing what. I mean, does seem to pretty well have one unified voice, which definitely goes a long way for a novella of this type. But, I mean, if you're going in expecting a horror novella or, like, classic Stephen King, it's not going to hold up as well as, say, The Body does as far as adolescent coming-of-age classics. I should note while I'm flipping through here, some of these illustrations, such as this one, are exclusive to the numbered edition. So if you do get the trade edition, you're not going to get an illustration like that. I do have to be slightly critical of one instance, one line in particular, that I am going to probably hate until my dying day. Like I said, without getting into spoiler territory, there is a confrontation. There is a situation in the final act of Gwendy's Button Box where Gwendy finds herself in a moment of terror with an adversary. There is Vincent Sammy's full dust jacket artwork there. And, well, I'm just going to read it to you. I believe I've got it here. Oh, man. Here it is. Pardon the awkward pause of me finding it here. Like I said, don't you have to read any of these. But this adversary finds the button box, and I'm just going to read this paragraph to you, that this is not representative of the whole novella. This is just one particular line that hits you over the head with just absolute poor writing. It really stands out as poor writing. The rest of the novella kind of flows pretty well, but this adversary picks up the button box, and let me just read it for you. He touches the green one, then the violet one, and as his grimy thumb moves towards the black one, Gwendy does the only thing she can think of. Only she doesn't think. She just acts. Her bra closes in front, and now she opens it. Do you want to play with those buttons, or with mine? Jesus. Like, the novella itself isn't poorly written. I mean, it's fast. It honestly, I mean, it probably could have served better if it was either shorter or longer. It kind of has like an anti-Goldilocks in that way. I mean, it gets the job done with what it has. There's Vincent Sammy's take on the coins. I mean, with the breakneck speed, it probably could have been condensed more into a nice shorter story, taking out the cringeworthy dialogue such as that, and it would have been perhaps better for it as a short story, or go the opposite direction and add more to the novel and make it a full-length novel. But if you're going to do that route, you run the risk of, having to put too much filler in it. I mean, with this coming-of-age story as it is, there's already a ton of filler taking you away from the button box. I mean, there's, you run the risk of adding too much filler to be a full-length novel. But, I mean, as it works as a novella, I mean, it's all right. It's not bad. It's still an enjoyable tale. Ultimately, I think it probably could have benefited from being, like I said, either a short story, being shorter, or if you have enough depth and plots to add to it, a fuller length novel, as long as you're not falling into the habit of adding more dialogue, such as that line that I read to you. I mean, that line is just absolute garbage. I mean, if you're going to be critical of a novel, that line deserves all of the critiques alone. Now, one thing I will say is that it works incredibly well as a standalone novella. The way this novella ends is fine. It puts a nice little ribbon, nice little bow on the story of Gwendy Peterson. You do not need to read any further. But if you are familiar with Gwendy's Button Box, you most likely know that they did go further. They had a a longer piece, Gwendy's Magic Feather, which was solely written by Richard Chizmar, and then Gwendy's Final Task, which was once again co-written by King and Chizmar. And, well, I'm reading those right now, so I'm going to do a book comparison, book review for those in the coming weeks. And, well, I don't have good faith in those, just because this novella kind of wrapped itself up pretty nicely. And I have read Gwendy's Magic Feather before, and, well, I have thoughts on that. So those are thoughts for next week. But anyways, if you want a pretty decent standalone short story, just to kind of, tide you over while you're waiting for your next Stephen King release, Gwendy's Button Box is still worth a read. I mean, if you want a nicer, shorter version of it, I would recommend checking out Button Button by Richard Chizmar. I think it does achieve the same effect with a shorter page count and just overall just a more concise tale. But anyways, Gwendy's Button Box, still worth checking out. So as I've shown, there are 3 editions here that I've been showcasing, one being the trade edition from Cemetery Dance. It is going to be the most commonly found one if you were just looking for a copy in and of itself. It's pretty easy to find one signed by Richard Chizmar. It's in its, I think, 4th printing right now, so you might not necessarily get a first printing, but, it gets the job done. That numbered edition from Lonely Roads is definitely the fanciest in terms of paper. And in terms of production overall, like binding and whatnot. Plus, it has the added bonus of being signed by Stephen King himself. It was limited to 350 copies. There's also a lettered edition from Lonely Roads books, way out of my price range. But the paper in this one is almost like thick cardstock. It's very impressive with how nice the paper is. I mean, like every single page is nice and thick. It does have some additional illustrations from Keith Minnion inside. That is not one of them. But unfortunately, I don't think those illustrations really add anything to it. I mean, this one's decent, but everything else is just it's just there. It does, of course, have a full color piece as well, which is probably one of the nicer aspects that the numbered edition adds to it. However, I have to say that I'm proud. My favorite is, other than the Stephen King signature, is probably going to go to the SST edition. Now, this edition is not signed by anybody, unlike the other 2 titles in the trilogy, which are signed by Richard Chizmar and I believe Vincent Sammy, who did the artwork for all 3. But I gotta say, I do like the full color plates that Vincent Sammy has done for these. Now, the plates aren't necessarily full page illustrations. I mean, there's a lot of blank space around it. And the illustrations themselves aren't really integral to the plot like they are with Keith Minnion's, but they do set the scene very nicely. Most of them are kind of little slices of life, taking snapshots of like Hotel California, where she mentions a Hotel California poster. So there's, your 8-track player, or they mention them playing arcade games, so there's Space Invaders. It's a nice little slice of life, time machines. That Vincent Sammy's artwork adds to it. But all in all, you can't go wrong with any edition, no matter which one you pick out. All 3 certainly get the job done. I will say the numbered edition, the numbered edition itself is pictured here. Ta-da. What is not pictured is the rest of the packaging. With the numbered edition also came this coin, which featured Stephen King on one side, Richard Chizmar on the other with your number. And the single largest case that I own. Like, look at that. That is absolutely massive. Nice little latch on the case, lots of extra room. I mean, this case is about almost like 17 inches tall, almost like 17 to 18 inches tall. It's a big one. I did a unboxing video of Alice in Wonderland, the Centipede Press edition, and it's roughly the same size as that case alone, which I enjoy it for Alice because you get full page artwork there. It is stunning. Check out that unboxing video. As far as the cases go, it gets a little cumbersome, but thankfully they did not continue that case size with the numbered editions of Magic Feather or Final Task. Actually, caveat, the numbered edition for Final Task hasn't come out yet, so I guess it's possible they might put that in there, but I don't think they are. So anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Please check out Gwendy's Button Box. It's a decent read as far as a little little coming-of-age stories go. Please consider subscribing to the channel here. I am going to be doing book reviews and comparison videos for Gwendy's Magic Feather and Gwendy's Final Task in the coming weeks. I do at least one book review a week with plenty of unboxing videos in between here and there, so plenty to keep you entertained. So anyways, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you around next time.